Hey, I'm Avalaura.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Black Leave America podcast, where we highlight holistic wellness, travel, mental health, and self-care through traveling outside of America to reconnect and rediscover who you are. It's time for us to leave any condition that disrupts our peace. Black Women Leave America opens your eyes and explores new ways of living, but more importantly, new ways of being. Because sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. Sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. This is Black Women Leave America podcast, and today we have our special guest coming in from Mexico, Ms. Claire Soares. She is the founder of the $1 million flagship startup travel company Up in the Air. As a former sales executive at a Fortune 500 company, Claire was a road warrior traveling over 1,000 flights during her sales career. So we're going to talk about how that now translated into starting her own business and, of course, leaving America and continuing that lifestyle. So Claire, welcome to Black Women Leave America. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
We are so happy to have you. So why don't you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, about me. So I am clearly a lover of life. So my life, I love it to be filled with all the things that bring me joy, whether it's, creating a new project in my business or hanging out with my friends at the beach. I really like to enjoy life. And part of that is having that Mamba mentality that Kobe Bryant talks about and just really going all in with your ideas and really giving yourself like a chance to like conquer your dreams. So that's like who I am as a person, past Up in the Air life and running the business.
I actually love that you said giving yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what does that mean to you? Like actually literally giving yourself a chance to really live life?
So I think giving yourself a chance is literally stepping past that fear to take that first step and also continuing and holding yourself accountable. So a lot of times people have dreams or things they want to do, but unfortunately they don't take the first step, or maybe they take the first through third step, but they don't follow through for a lot of reasons. I believe that a lot of the reason that people don't finish is because of fear. They're scared to fail. But I think the thing that people don't understand is there really is no such thing as a bad idea. Like just because something doesn't work out, there is a lesson to learn from that. And as an entrepreneur or a creator of anything, you're going to have things that don't work out. Get over it. You're going to have times when you don't meet that goal. Get over it. And so a big part of being an entrepreneur, I think, is putting your best foot forward. And as they talk about in the 4 agreements, always doing your best, but also knowing that my best is not going to be the same at different points in time. The 4 agreements talks about that. And so a core component for me as I kind of step past these dreams is I don't have the fear I used to have. I'm not worried about something not working out. If it doesn't work out, I own it. I do what I need to do to make it right as a business person, and I move on, but also being clear on what that lesson is to make it better and not make that mistake again. And I think that's the component people miss. Like, I have people that talk about their business plan, and I'm like, F your business plan. Like, launch your companies, get started. I mean, unless you're doing like a true startup and you need to raise money, like, get out there, get your feet wet, like figure out what this product's gonna be, market it, start small, and just go from there. Like over time, I didn't have a vision statement when I started. I think people come into this entrepreneurship world with the old corporate feel of, I gotta have a board of directors, I have to have this, I have to have that. And I'm looking at them like, that's not how a lot of these multi-million-dollar businesses get started. Like they're started off of pure like passion and hungry. And if you're working full time, there's no time like that to invest, hire coaches, and within a couple of months, launch something, launch a website, launch a basic product. But
let's do it. And that's what I did. I had no idea what I was doing. No clue. I just did it. And I didn't have a corporate background. I didn't have a business background. I had a mental health, social work background. And I just figured it.
You will. And ask people for help. There is somebody around everybody.
So I want to like kind of backtrack and see how you got to this point. So, you know, what happened? So again, you're at this, you know, this corporate job, you have all this experience, all this training. How did you go from that to leaving to now starting your own travel business?
So I started Up in the Air Life in 2013 when I was working full time. So I was working full time anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week traveling. And my full time job, I was a sales engineer, which basically I was a product nerd. I knew a very technical software, and my job was to present the software to C-level executives and show them how it was going to save them money and why they should spend. And so I ended up starting a travel company because as I was traveling about 8 years ago, before I started Up in the Air Life, I noticed a lot of the travel groups was very much focused on hostels and budget travel. But what I noticed is that there were a lot of working professionals that wanted to stay in hotel rooms and more upscale accommodations. And I had talked to different groups about, hey, can we have a hotel option? And everyone was kind of, you know, a couple of them like, that's not really what we're trying to do. We're trying to create it very affordable. And I'm like, cool. So I ended up planning a trip to Yacht Week. Everyone wanted to go to Croatia Yacht Week. And so they were like, Claire, plan it. And that was our first trip. And then after Yacht Week, it just kind of morphed. And I think when I look back, like the first trip I planned was my high school trip to Six Flags. And I got permission and I planned this whole trip. But when I look at Up in the Air Life, it literally morphed from planning a yachting trip to planning a trip to Colombia to planning this amazing weekend in Mexico. And what I was doing is taking in all these sales trips. When you're in sales, you go to President's Club trips and how they treated us on these incentive trips. And we got to the hotel. We had handwritten notes from the CEO. We had Bose gifts, Tiffany coupons, Tiffany in the lobby to go shopping. And I took a lot of those concepts, the main concept of how do you make someone feel good? And for Black people, who's my predominant audience, they are working 40 to 60 hours, my client, a week. So when they go on these vacations, they want to have everything taken care of. They want to feel good. So my focus is, how do I make this person feel special? How do I make sure they can enjoy this place and feel rested? So that's a big difference in how we travel. Like Up in the Air Life, our motto has always been, we make travel better, but we also make travel different. We're not getting you into a location and starting you out with an 8 a.m. tour. No, like we're picking out, that's like, who wants to
because I'm not
like
getting
that?
up. Sorry,
But
I'm on vacation.
Right. You would be surprised how many tour companies do that. And so one thing we continuously work on is, how do we make this trip amazing from a rest perspective, but also hitting all the highlights, but also taking you to places that you would have never been able to plan. And so that is my goal of providing people the ultimate experience of wherever we go that is well balanced, with enough free time, with enough highlights, with enough dope things, and also some luxury rolled in.
Yeah, so I think you're focusing a lot on the business, which is great. But I mean, individually yourself, what were some of the experiences that you were able to be exposed to earlier on that made you go, yes, I definitely got to bring my girls back here, or, you know, something like that?
Or let me leave America and move and become a nomad.
Nomad. Well, really what sparked the transition of quitting my job finally was I got to a point where I went through like some things that I felt were discriminatory, or I went through like discrimination at my job. And I went from being tremendously happy to not feeling appreciated. And I think a lot of Black women can relate that at a certain point in your career, you're either going to be sponsored and mentored by someone in that business, like a white male or a white male or female. And if you're not sponsored by something, as something I learned in the corporate world, you're not going to go further. You're not going to get that director or VP role. And so once I felt unappreciated, I did not feel good. It led to me taking a 3-month sabbatical to really take some time mentally off, because I hadn't had any time off since like college. And then after that 3-month sabbatical, you know, I literally didn't do nothing. There were days I went through like a small depression. Like I didn't know what I wanted out of my life, because I felt like my job defined everything. And once I came back and went through a healing process, went through therapy, I realized that I wanted more for myself. Like, and as much as my job didn't promote me to where I wanted to be, I realized I had built, this was like in 2018 when this happened. So in those 5 years of building my company, I had a team of almost 20 people. We were crushing over $1 million. Last year, we almost crossed 2 million. I actually didn't work after I broke my leg, but we would have hit over 2 million last year. But even still, all those things I wanted from my day job, I actually had them already. And once I realized that, it gave me the power to say, you know what? I don't need to have all my ducks slide in a row. I'm quitting on this date. I quit. I didn't know I was going to move to Mexico. I knew I was going to move to Mexico, but I didn't know how or when. My friend found me an apartment. It was like a 6-month lease. And so being able to leave was really like an escape plan for me to get more zen. And the moment I got here in Playa del Carmen, and continuously even now, my number one reason of being here is it's very tranquil. My life is very, very chill. I mean, I literally wake up and I'm so grateful that I have left something that was not making me happy. And I have a lot of people that ask me like, you know, maybe you should go back to corporate because you can have a different experience somewhere. And while that's the case, I just feel like they don't deserve me. I
know that's right.
Like, I am a phenomenal, skillful, I have so many skills that I realize I don't, and my friend always says, you don't give yourself enough credit. I have built so much. I have so much to give. And I want to work on my own terms. I want to have a healthy, balanced life. I want to be able to sleep in. I meditate every morning. I've been more balanced and relaxed this year after breaking my leg. We'll talk about that. Yes. But I'm more balanced now and more happy now than I ever have been. And so leaving was literally a point that I had to quit my job because I was so unhappy. And for my own mental stability and for my own self-respect, like I had to let it go. And it was really, really hard after being somewhere for over a decade and and not only was I there, let's be clear, I was one of the top 5% every single year. And towards the end, like I got to the point where I would be questioned about my performance in front of somebody who was like a weaker, not a strong salesperson. I remember at one point I said, can we check the board? Because last time I checked, I'm always in the top percent. I'm actually one of the highest persons on the entire team, but you're questioning me on our sales rep who hasn't really closed anything, but he's a white male and whatever he says must be correct that I'm not doing this. But somehow I managed to, like, when you look at the board, I'm at the top of the team. So I just feel like if I were not brown skin, I don't have to justify these things. Yeah. I have VIPs questioning like why like I was able to travel. So, you know, I didn't know like maybe I shouldn't share my travel, but it became a thing. Like higher ups are asking my boss about it. And my boss was super cool. And he was just like, yo, like people are asking. So just like chill. But it's just
so it was okay for you to work for them and bust your butt, but not for you to travel and enjoy your life.
Oh, for sure. Not only travel, because I was flying, you know, I fly business class. I wasn't traveling. I was doing stuff they can't do, or they didn't know how they could do, or they don't do it. It's just like a lot of stupid stuff, you know? And at the end of the day, like I was making really great money and I did what I needed to do. But, you know, with corporate, I just feel like there's so many microaggressions. Like when I look back, like first I was told, you're too tough. You need to be nicer. Then I was nicer. Oh, well, you're not giving the salespeople enough like barriers. And I'm like, you know, and towards the end, I learned when you get those like fake reviews or fake issues, I've learned the way to address them. Like, okay, well, can you give me an example? No, I don't have an example. Okay, well, when you get an example, I'm happy to talk about it because a lot of times, and I hate to say this, but as a Black woman or a Black person in corporate America, you get these microaggressions or you get picked on or people make these general statements, and general statements are extremely dangerous. Well, every time Claire's on the phone, it's this, or, you know, her phone's not clear. Really, when did that happen? Oh, well, it happened this one time 2 years ago. And I remember like somebody came to my boss about something and he said, when did this happen? They said, oh, it happened like last year. They said, well, I'm going to ask you to stop repeating that story. It happened one time, but you're creating this storyline for me, which other people, they don't have a storyline. Bob,
so they were controlling the narrative.
Yes. And you have to watch that. Like, and it's frustrating because when you think about in America, period, you know, we all know like there oftentimes there's a double standard. You have to outperform, you have to do this, you have to do that. But it's tiring. If you make one mistake, all of a sudden that's a narrative. When it's not true, check the board, check the stats. That's what I always like to say.
No, I love that, y'all. I hope y'all writing this down. You might need to rewatch this because she is really giving you all an education, okay? And I think it's important to notice those signs because I think so many of us get caught up in, you know, in the lifestyle and the work and what's going on that we don't even check all of that. You know what I mean? Like we miss it until it's too late. So knowing those signs are important because then what can happen is you can really evaluate, look at your life and say, okay, is this something that I want to continue to do? And if I do that, this is what it's going to look like. Or maybe I need to establish my exit plan.
Absolutely. I mean, towards my end, where are you going, Claire? Florida. Where are you going? Florida. Where are you going? Florida. That's all I did. Don't need to be your Facebook friend. Don't need to see your Instagram friend. Because let me tell you, that guy in marketing looked at my Instagram page and he's like, oh, you went to China, you did this, you did that. They're watching you because, and I hate to say this, I'm not going to make a general statement, but I will say that there are some people you work with that don't want to know or feel that you're doing better than they are. Or they don't want to feel that you're living a life that they can't live.
AKA
or whatever.
haters.
There's definitely your haters, and in a corporate space, you have to manage that. But you didn't ask me this, but I'll just tell anyone who's listening, if you are in that corporate space and you want to climb up that ladder, you need to have a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, and I mean, you need to have a vice president or a director in your organization that you are meeting with, that you are sharing what you want to do, and make sure you're in the leadership program. Trust me, most organizations have them. It ain't nothing on paper, but trust me, they have people that they are grooming. So you need to make sure you make some type of meeting, whether you are reaching out yourself and scheduling meetings with this person to make it clear that you are here to stay and you are trying to be on the leadership team. And that will go a long way because when positions open up, let me tell you, they already know who they want to hire. So if you just applying, you're late to the game.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that because the truth is, you said it and so many of our other guests have said it, that they literally had to leave for their own mental health. And when you're battling all of those things and you don't even know how to navigate it, nobody's telling you those rules, right? But even if they are, you still got to live it. Like you still got to go through it. And you got to look at like, is it worth it? You know, is all of this worth it?
There's a little piece of it too, though, I think that we need to talk about, which is you think that it's only you and like, I must be going crazy. You know, am I really doing something wrong? Like maybe I'm, you know, to where you're like over analyzing yourself and going, well, maybe I did kind of yell at him a little bit, you know, it's like, but no, I just said, you know, that the bathroom was closed. I don't know why they thought there was something extra, right? So it's like that level of understanding and having, I think, this is why this podcast is a great place to have this conversation, right? Because we need to have these spaces and places to where we can have these stories and that narrative that goes around that goes, hey, this happened to me. Did it happen to you? Okay, yes, you're not crazy. No, that's them. You know, they are doing X, Y, and Z. So
yeah, it absolutely happens that we experience generalities in our reviews. And what I would definitely remind people is, don't get upset. Tell them, thank you for that feedback. Can you give me a few examples when this occurred? And really, really push back to get specific examples. And if that person is not able to give you specific examples, ask for it to be removed. Because I think we just accept this. We don't pin them. They just say, oh, we think you're being too hard on your team. And you just say, oh, okay, that's a generality. Can you give me some examples? And not only that, can you give me examples? And so when I went to this with my boss, she said, oh, well, this happened. And I said, oh, okay, well, what would you have done differently? So she actually said, well, no, I would have done what you did. So again, you're putting it back on them to say, okay, well, how would have handled this differently? And let them tell you, because sometimes, and this is what exactly happens. The generality gets introduced, which is an attack somehow or an assault on you. You're not able to get specific. and you're not getting specific feedback on what you do need to do. So then it's like a cycle. You get attacked, or you're being told you're not doing something. You're trying to do all these different things, but you need to get clarity on exactly what it is to really decipher, did you do something wrong?
Exactly.
Or is it some BS?
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I know all of that, and I have clients literally in that same space. All of that wears on your mental, emotional, physical well-being, your energy, everything. And it's so interesting. I talk a lot about toxic relationships, but I have actually had to now do a lot of talks about toxic environments, because that is a toxic environment. You know, how do you really exist and navigate in that environment and not lose your sanity?
It is very difficult. I mean, my last sales meeting I went to, I literally had a panic attack and I started hysterically crying right before I had to go to dinner with my coworkers. And what happened is, and it's ultimately the reason, like, not only was I dissatisfied with my job, but I was tired of pretending.
Yeah.
I was tired of putting that face on and
code
pretending
switching.
Like, I was tired of that stuff because I just felt like I was just tired. I was just tired.
Yeah, like, can y'all just get it together? Can y'all just fix?
Yeah, that is,
you know, like, why
I gotta be part of the boys club if I want to get promoted. I gotta come in the office. I gotta go through all these hoops. I remember like I was told one time, well, we really want to see you move back into this before you can do that and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that ain't what y'all told Craig. I didn't say that. But
you was thinking it though.
I was just like, this is just another hoop, because Marcy comes in and Marcy's just climbing up the ladder, and Marcy's like, okay, like I you know,
dumb as a light post, right? Dumb, just making little stupid mistakes. Like,
she's not better than me,
right?
I mean, in my last days, I had my last manager say to me, how did you get the compensation plan that you had? Because it's she said it was like higher than anyone, including herself. And at that point, I was fed up and I was hot and popping with my responses. I said, because I'm the best. I said, I'm the best of the company. I said, I'm one of the best. That's why I got that plan. But I thought, how dare you have that audacity to question? Like,
man, I would have loved to have been there. I would have been like, I probably wouldn't have been a very good coworker. I would have been,
the games we play.
I wanted to report her, but I just felt like at the end of the day, my future is looking bright. So y'all can have this.
But so we totally understand why you left. Like, that is clear on so many levels.
I want to just say this really quickly to our listeners. Let me say this really quickly to our listeners, Avalaura. She said, get you a mentor, join the leadership team, but also get you a life coach. You're going to need all of that to navigate that space properly. So go ahead, Avalaura.
Yeah, it's deep.
In therapy, if you're not going to therapy, life coach, some type of outlet.
I'm both. Come see me.
Wonderful.
But no, little plug. It's real. It's really real. But what I want to say, so now, like, what are the differences now that you're out of that environment, right? That you're in Mexico. So you started to talk about just how tranquil it is. What are some of the other differences that you've noticed since you've left America, you're in another space? What are some of the other things?
So the difference now is that my cost of living is dramatically lower. So, and not only that, like, my love of travel and being in different places. Because when I think about, like, why do I like to travel? I like to do different things. I like to eat different restaurants. Now that I live in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, I can do that every day. There's like 1,600 restaurants in like a small 5 to 10 mile radius. Wow. So not only that, there's a Black community here. So I get to be around people who actually have time to invest in me and to be with me. And that's something that I feel like is a challenge in the States because, you know, we either have long commutes. And so by the time we give 8 to 10 hours to our employer, plus our commute, which can be 2 to 3 hours, you're pretty exhausted. Like here in Mexico, the difference is that most of the people here, even if you work full time, you know, they can work on the beach under the cabana on their laptop. You know, they can meet you for dinner like 3 or 4 nights a week. So I see people and hang out with people a few nights a week. This would never happen in the States. First of all, we're too far. We don't have time. People have time here. So my life is enriched with Black women and men that have time to meet me for breakfast or dinner or lunch or to just hang out and take a road trip. So from that perspective, it's very enriching to be able to develop those relationships. And I think probably the biggest thing, like I go to therapy every week at this point, and I've been in therapy for about 7 months. And I continuously tell everyone, therapy is the one thing that has benefited my life exponentially.
Say that again.
Therapy is the best gift that I have given myself, better than anything. And while I try to go every week, sometimes I go every other week if I'm feeling really, really good. But I think people have a misconception that you go to therapy when things are not good. But the reality is that what therapy has helped me do is therapy has helped me understand myself. Yes. It's also helped me to be more empathetic to the people around me and to really have a better visibility to understand human nature and emotions. Because I think the worst thing you can do, I feel like, is call your girlfriends about your man problems or whatever, because they're going to tell you some crazy advice, usually.
The worst thing is you take it.
Yeah, because the thing is, and the major thing I've learned from therapy is like, stop making assumptions and show empathy to people. And while we think this person's trying to hurt you, I would argue 80% of the time that's not true. 80% of the time, this person actually has demons or things that they don't know how to handle. And so when they're in a relationship with you, those things spill over. And so understanding human nature, understanding yourself, understanding what you want and need are core to survival.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's interesting and what we've been finding out a lot through, this podcast and all the amazing women that we've talked to is that leaving America seems to foster that understanding more than anything else. And I, obviously I'm a proponent of therapy and coaching and all self-help and anything that you can do to really improve your quality of life. But that's one of the reasons we started this podcast, because we started seeing this trend of Black women literally leaving so that they could find themselves. And that might not have been their initial, like, this is what I'm gonna do, but ultimately that's what happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think that is so awesome. And thank you for stating that. And again, and just tell it, 'cause we need to hear it, go to therapy. And you can leave too, but travel is not a substitute for that. It can certainly contribute to your quality of life. But
ask you a little bit more about that therapy. Are you doing teletherapy, or do you have a therapist there? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So what I recommend for women that are traveling is you can find a therapist online. So my therapy is all remotely. And so I found my therapist at therapyforblackgirls.com.
Yep. And I'm on there.
Yes. And when you go there, click on advanced and filter out for virtual. So for all my professional ladies that are busy, have long commutes, I think virtual therapy is amazing.
Yep.
The process that I went through is I had like an interview with my therapist. We had one call first because they want to make sure you're stable. You can't do virtual unless you're in a certain place. So she's going to speak with you about kind of where you are and what you're trying to do. And based on that, they may or may not decide to take you. And from there, you can make choices. I literally went through a whole bunch of pictures and chose the therapist that in my mind was what I was looking for.
She didn't choose me, y'all. She didn't choose me. No.
I wanted someone who looked like a mom. I wanted someone.
Okay, I'm not that.
Yeah, I definitely was looking for someone who was older than me that looked like a mom that had like a lot of life experience, and was also into alternative ways of healing, like meditation and things like that. So that's why I chose my therapist, because not only the psychological aspects, but also because she has been pushing me through like a meditation and like I'm finally meditating after like forever, like consistently every day. So awesome. It's great.
That's beautiful. I love hearing that. And I'm the same way. That really is, my platform is definitely holistic wellness. And so I love hearing that. because it is so important, because ultimately that is what it is about. It is about learning to balance all of those areas of your life and how to do it on your terms, in your way, you know, without all the extra stuff outside of you. Because ultimately, if that's gone, what are you going to do?
Right.
You have to be able to foster it for yourself. So yes. So
And I'm super
I think
excited about the digital health. So yes, anything that's
absolutely.
digital and media. And if you're older and you're listening, she looked for the older women. So please use your picture on your website and on your
Right?
profiles. Put yourself out there, because there are people that are looking for you. So
Yeah, see, all my clients come in and are millennial. They're like, you just look so cool. I love your hair wrap. Like, you're just awesome. Like, I just wanted to work with you. Like that.
And I know, like,
millennials come in and I love them. And so
I love it.
So what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself since you have been removed from this chaotic, toxic environment?
Man, so I learned that I overworked myself. That was something that became apparent. So most of last year, I was traveling from like July until like I broke my leg. I was pretty much on the road 90% of the time.
Wow.
And so I learned that I was pushing myself so hard. You know, I came from that American corporate background of like push, 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 work hard, play hard, work hard. So I had short bouts of playing, and I was really, really working hard. And I had been saying, I'm going to take a break, go and take a break. Well, in November, I literally broke my leg, and it forced me to take a break. And so breaking my leg in November, I broke my leg in Zambia. It's a crazy story. I was whitewater rafting. Shout out to people, make sure you buy your travel insurance, and I'm not playing. So broke my leg under like the 5th rapid. And right before I broke my leg, I was just sitting in the boat, not paddling. And I was just looking around. It was so quiet. And then he was like, we're about to go over category 5 rapid. We went through it. The boat dipped straight down. And then I kind of fell. So I went to get up and brace my leg. And we dropped and hit something. And I totally broke my leg. Had to be carried up a hill that was like almost upright. And it took about 30 minutes, and 7 amazing Zambian men took me up this hill on a stretcher. My foot was like dangling. It was so scary.
Oh my goodness.
And I was taken by ambulance to like a hospital, in quotes, where I had to wait about an hour to get, mind you, my leg is broken, like just dangling. And I had to wait to get x-rays, and my x-rays were like outside on a fence. In my leg, you could see it was broken like at an angle. And on the way to the on the way in the ambulance, the guy was like, do you have insurance? And I was like, I think so. And he was just like, well, you got 2 options. If your leg is broke, like kind of broke, we could just like sit it and you fly home, you'll be good. But he's like, if it's broke at a point where it needs to have a pin through it, you're going to have surgery. And if you have surgery, you're going to have to be medevac, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be about $100,000. And so I started like panicking. And I'm like, well, what if I do, if my insurance won't cover it? He said, people don't come to Africa without insurance. So I was like I was hysterically crying. And then finally I just calmed down. I was just like, it's going to be what's going to be. Yeah. Meanwhile, got the x-ray. My leg required surgery, of course. So I ended up finding my insurance paperwork. Luckily, I had a primary policy, which if you need a primary policy, shout out to AXATravelinsurance.com. They give you a primary policy, which $250,000 up front. So I was able to be flown to Johannesburg, South Africa, and spent 3 weeks in a private room in a hospital without paying anything, and got surgery on my leg, a pin through it, and then they flew me home first class. And over the last 2 months, I had to learn how to walk again. So now I'm walking now. Yeah, so it was but this whole process was critical to who I am. It forced me to actually sit down and sleep. I've gotten more sleep in the last 2.5 months. It allowed me to be slow, to be still. And so the thing that I think people don't realize, and this is my theme for this whole year, resting is doing. And I'm not talking about resting for a day. This is what we do. We rest for a day. We rest for a weekend. No, I mean, finish a project and take a break for like months. And what people don't realize is taking that break allows those creative juices to flow. It allows you to be still. It allows you to figure out what's next. I was literally that person who I would sell out a mega yacht for $400,000. And then next week, I'm on to the next project. I'm on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. There was no break. There was no celebration. It was just constant. And while from the outside, people are like, yo, you're a beast. And that's great. But like, life is more than that. Life is also about what you're building outside of that, you know, and what do you have for yourself? Like, do you have a joyous life? Do you have hobbies that you do in your free time? We are not just our work. And so.
Yes, so many jewels, but I do want to make sure that you all heard, get primary travel health insurance. That right there is a game changer, because I never would have thought of breaking my leg in Africa. Everybody get primary.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Otherwise, you would have to come up with about $60,000 to $25,000 to get that surgery up front. And for most people, they don't have that type of liquidity. So, yeah, never in a million years would I think that I would break my leg. You know, I always thought growing up, you saw like the little kids that broke their leg, and you'd be like, how do they break their leg? And then I broke my leg as an adult.
Now you know. Wow. Well, there's so much to learn. We're going to come back. We're going to take a break with our sponsor, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Black Women Leave America. We are here with our amazing guest, Claire Soares, and she's just talking about how she broke her leg, and literally how that was like a turning point, really changed her life and helped her to understand more about herself. What I want to know is, what are some of your favorite places? So you've traveled so many different places. You decided to settle in Mexico. What are some of your favorite places, and why?
So my favorite places always come back to Thailand. That's one of my favorite places for sure. But you know, it's interesting now. So I've been to 60 different countries. My favorite place now is wherever I am at that moment. And so, but my favorite countries have always been Thailand. I do like South Africa a lot. I like Joburg for sure. I love Italy, Paris. But honestly now, like, wherever I am at that moment is where home is. Definitely breaking my leg has forced me to enjoy being in Mexico. I was constantly gone before, and now I'm enjoying the slowness, the relaxingness. I realize that I don't want to do the grind anymore. I want to be laser focused on projects that make my business leap. And so that's what my focus is on. Projects that's going to leap from a customer service perspective, leap from an offering perspective. All the other minutia stuff, I mean, there's always going to be stuff you can do. But for me, it's more important of making that big difference. And that's like where I'm looking at is, where do I make a big difference in my business? And now, like, what is my legacy going to be? So what are my legacy projects, which are things I'm starting now, like thinking about launching a podcast to have a voice. Being able to do coaching to give back to women who want to find their passions and live out their dreams. So those are like my important things at the moment.
But one of the things that you found, and I say this all the time, is that, you know, if your mind ain't right, your business ain't tight.
Yes.
And your inner life, what's going on with you personally, greatly affects your business. And so I love how, you know, you're talking about one, you know, how you're in therapy and you had to make this whole lifestyle shift, but also how that's influencing your business. And now, instead of the grind, you're finding that it's good to slow down, it's good to take breaks, and let me have a different shift or focus in my business, which is my legacy. And I think that's so important, because a lot of people, we have that American mindset. We got to grind, you know, team, no sleep, you know, you got to hustle. If you're going to be successful in business, you got to hustle. Like, and, you know, I see this all the time on social media. It's the holidays. Who's working on a holiday? Who's still up at night? And I'm like, this is nothing to celebrate. Take a break.
Listen, you could be gone at any moment, as we've all seen recently. And I think it's really important to live your life now. Have joy now. They're like, yes, I worked extremely hard to get to the point I'm at now. So I've worked hard and I've earned the right now to not be constantly grinding. But I think, like, you have to be able to celebrate your wins. You have to have some balance, because like I said, life can go away at any given moment, on any given Sunday. And so we just all need to be able to have those moments with everyone we love, along with these crazy goals that we're going to crush as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And making sure that those crazy goals are in alignment with who you are and what you value and what's important to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. So do you recommend that Black women leave America?
I think each person has to decide that for themselves. For me personally, I think leaving, even if it's temporary, temporary, is a good thought. There is a woman named Rashida Dow that talks about having this gap year. I think that's a fundamental shift that people should consider. If you're in California, you definitely could take some time off from your job with, like, mental things or things like that. But there's other places. So I recommend, yes, that you leave 3 to 6 months at least and take a break. For Black women, if you leave the States, it's a whole nother life you have not comprehended. We get used to the American lifestyle, which is one version, and there's no right or wrong, I would say, but it is one version of things. And then when you live abroad, it's another version. When we live abroad, the materialistic things that I appreciated in the States, nobody's walking around with a Chanel bag. I mean, if you have a Chanel bag, I mean, I have Louis Vuitton bags, but we're not going to the beach, or we're not even going out with our bags. There is nothing really materialistic. You are wearing a cute bathing suit, a wrap, and your life is full of shorts and t-shirts.
Yep.
In the States,
and flip-flops. Not the Louis Vuitton,
right.
Flip-flops.
Exactly. So life is totally different. And when you are no longer focusing on that, it does bring out something different. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. It's hard to tell. I've lived both lives and they're different. Would I ever go back to the States? Absolutely. If I met a guy and he wants to live in the States, maybe I'd live in Mexico part-time. I'm open to that. But I think that the first thing we have to do is focus on your mental well-being. To me, that's a core thing that everyone should be, so that you should be tapped into that joy and understanding what makes you joyful and figuring out what is it you want to do. If you want to be at that corporate job and be a VP, then be the best VP, but be a best VP that has joy every day.
That's it. Yes. And I love it. And I love how we even started this interview. Claire was like, "Is this a video interview?" We said, "Yes." And she was just like, "Oh, I just came back from the pool." I said, "But that's just your life now. Like, that's what you represent. Like, so that is all good. Like, just show your natural hair, just coming back from the pool, living your best life."
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Claire, for coming on the podcast. We are just overwhelmingly grateful, that you took a moment out of your time to chat with us. So if you are listening to our podcast and you have a story, you've left America, we definitely want to hear from you. Visit blackwomenleaveamerica.com and tell us all about it. Also, make sure you pick up our merchandise. All right. Avalaura is rocking her shirt. I have my shirt on here, which you can barely see. And her cup's behind her. You can see it there next to, what is that? Is that a cat? No, it's not a cactus. Anyway, if you're listening to the podcast, we also have it up on YouTube. So you can go and look and see if Avalaura has a cactus or a plant behind her. I can't figure it out.
It's a spider plant.
Oh, okay.
It's my spider. I love my plants. I'm a plant mama now.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Claire, thank you for joining us. Oh, let us know where we can find you. Please give us your social media links and handles.
Yes, so you can find my company at upintheairlife.com, and you can find me at upintheairclaire.com, and our Instagram handles are all the same: Up in the Air Life, Up in the Air Claire. And I hope to connect with you on the other side.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You guys, thanks so much for listening. And we are out. Peace.